Hey there everyone, it's Ravindra here back with another video. In this video we are going to learn about NgRx entity, and I'm assuming that you have some knowledge of NgRx store. If you don't have any experience with NgRx store, then you can check out this video of mine. Here I have explained everything about NgRx store and NgRx effects. If you find this video helpful, then please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed this channel, you can also subscribe it. So let's get started. So let's go here into this section, and we can see we have lots of libraries here. We are going to use this one today, NgRx entity, and let's go here and overview it. So here you can find all the details about NgRx store and NgRx entity in their official website. So let's go here in the installation page. So we need to install this package, but before that we need to install several more packages also. So we can go here. One package is NgRx store, another package we need here is NgRx effects. So first we will install this NgRx store. So go there and copy this thing and paste it here in your terminal and install it. I already have installed this package, so I'm not going to install it right now. And after that, once you have installed NgRx store, you need to install this package. So copy this package also and install it. Okay, after that we are going to install this package, the last one, NgRx entity. Copy this package and paste it here and install it. So we have installed all the three packages that we need in our project right now. So let's roll into this package.json file, and here you can see that we have installed NgRx effects, entity and store. You need to install this package also, json-servers, because we are going to create APIs with the help of json-server. So just type here npm install json-server and it will install this package for you. And how to configure our json-server, you need to learn this thing. So go here in my previous video of NgRx store, and here you will see the chapter section, and here we will find that here we will find something. Okay, I got it right now. So here this chapter, creating user API and services with json-server. So you can go there and you can see how we can integrate json-server APIs to our Angular project. So once you have done this done this json-server thing, then you will have the understanding of what this API folder is doing here. What is this db.json? So it is basically a database file, and in the previous project we were using this user data, but we are not going to use this users in our this project. So we are going to create another key here which will be book. So here right now create an array with just one object with id. This, it can be anything, it can be just like this, it doesn't matter, but it should be a string value. Okay, second property we need here is title, and third property we need here is price, which is a number 397. So after that go to this db.json file and add this section here. Now we have added our APIs, sorry, not APIs, our database kind of thing. Now we need to create a model. Okay, so go here in the app section, and in the model section create this file book.model.ts. So when you create this file, you need to add this code inside that file. We are simply creating an interface book for our APIs, which will contain these three properties: id with a string, title with a string, price type of number. Okay, so we have created our model. Now we are going to create some services. So create services in style services in this services folder. So you have to create this book service here, and it is our APIs. So I already have created these APIs. I'm just gonna go through this. So here we have our base URL, which is API/book, and it is our get books API, and simply we are making a get request with the help of HTTP client, and we have injected this HTTP client here. Okay, so we have injected this HTTP client here, and we are making the HTTP request from these services. So this method will give us the list of book, which will be a type of array of book. So it will return the book array, or it will return an observable of books. Here we have this section called add book, and we will simply pass a book object here, and we will make the post request, and it will return an observable of book. So you can see what it is returning to us. It is returning observable of book. Next thing is update book. It is doing the same thing, but we are making a put request here, and it is returning us observable of object. Okay, so we haven't defined anything here that what it is returning us. Actually, it is not returning anything to us. So the next method is here delete book, which is a delete request, and it is simply taking one argument, which is ID, type of string, and it is returning observable of object. Okay, it means it is returning any type, an object type of observable. So here we have completed our book services. Now we need to go here, and you have to create this state folder if you haven't created one, and here we will define our state related things. So inside this folder, create another folder which is book. So create this file here, book.actions.ts, and open this file and add these, import these things here. First thing, we need to import create action and props from NgRx store. Next thing, we need to import our book model, and now we will create some actions here. So first action will be our load book, which will be create action, and here it is our ID, which will be unique, and it can be anything, but it is a good naming convention that it is a book section, and the name of this action is load books, and we are not going to pass any props here. Next thing we are going to create is load book success method action, sorry, not method, load book action, load book success, and here it is the name of, it is our unique selector, and here we are passing the props. So it will take an array of book, and this action will be called when we make the HTTP request with the help of book service. So I will explain it later when it is going to be called. Next thing is going to create here is load book failure. It is a failure method for add books. It is its selector, and it will take one prop here as an error inside this object. So we are going to pass this error object here, means object, sorry, not error object, an object with error key. Next thing, we are going to create here add book, and we will do the same thing here, just change here, it will take the prop with book, which is a type of book. So next action will be add book success, and it will be the same as previous one. Next action will be add book failure. Simply here is the selector, and we will pass here an object with property error. Next action, we are going to create here update book, and it will take a prop here, which is an object with property book. Next thing, add book success, it will take the same prop. Next thing is update book failure, and here it will take an object with property error. So every failure method will be same. So there is nothing new about the failure method. Here the delete book, and it is the selector, and it will take a prop with object on object with the key ID. Delete book success with this key, and here is the prop, the same prop we are using in the delete book, and delete book failure. And here it will be the same as other failure methods. Now one last action we need here, select book, and this action is needed for selecting book. So it will be its ID, and it will take one prop here which is a type of string, and its key will be ID. So it is taking this object with the key ID type of string. Okay, so we have created all the actions. So now create this file here, book.reducer.ts, and after creating this file, open this file, and here we're going to write some code. So first we need to import some component or modules here. So first thing we will import here, create entity adapter and entity state from @ngrx/entity. Next thing we will import here, create reducer, on from NgRx store. Next thing we will import here the book from our book model, and here we are importing all the actions from our book.actions file, and we are going to make an alias of it with the name book actions. So here first create an interface book state and export it, and we are going to extend this interface with entity state of book, and here we're going to pass some properties here. So first thing we will need here a selected book ID, which is a type of string or null. Next thing we need here is loading error, and now we are going to create this book adapter. And after creating this book adapter, which will be a type of book, we're going to create here our initial state. Okay, so we are going to define some initial state with the help of book adapter.getInitial state method, and here we will pass our properties with some values. So selected book ID will be null, loading will be false, error will be null. Okay, now we're going to create here a book reducer, and this method, this book reducer, is going to be created with the help of this create reducer method, which we are importing here, create reducer from NgRx store. Okay, now first thing we need here is initial state, which we have created here. Next thing we are going to create, we're going to need this on method, and here we are going to pass the action name which we have created in the earlier file, and we have imported this book actions from our book.actions file. So we have imported all the actions and create an alias for it so that we can easily use our actions here. So here we're going to pass the actions. Now we need to pass here in state an ID, which is an object that contains one key ID. Okay, so we are returning the state. Here we are mutating the state, and because we cannot directly modify our state, so we're going to mutate the state here with this spread operator, and here we are passing the select book ID from here. So first action or reducer method is select book. Next thing will be load books, and here it is simply passing any state here, and we are returning the same state, not same state, we are creating a new state here with the help of spread operator. So we are passing the same state here and just adding one property, loading equals to true. Next thing we will create here the load book success, and it will take one prop here which is a books, and here we are using the entity methods now. So it is the new thing that we haven't used in the previous section, where we have created the same thing with the help of NgRx effects only. So here it is a new thing here. So this method set all is the part of NgRx entity, and there is tons of methods you can check out on their documentation, and you can find there are tons of methods for changing the state of our NgRx store. So here we are simply passing these books here, and we are creating a new state here with just spreading this spread operator and state, and we are setting this loading to false here. So one method we need here is load book failure. So let's create it, and here we are doing the same thing, but rather than book we are passing here error, and we are changing the action from load book success to load book failure, and we are mutating a new state here, passing the error object and loading equals to false. Now let's create another method here, and it will be add book. So here we are going to use the same parameters. One will be our state, another will be an object of book, and we are mutating a state here with the spread operator and setting loading true here. Next thing, add book success, which will take the same parameters as above, and here we are calling this entity method book adapter dot add one, which will take one parameter here as a book, as a type of book, which we are getting here. Okay, so we are passing this book inside this add one method. We are mutating a state here with the spread operator and setting loading equals to false. And one more method we are going to create here with add book failure, and we are doing the same thing here, but just setting this loading false. Okay, now let's create the update book method, and here we are just setting this loading equals to true, and other state will be the same. Now here we have update book success, and in the update book success we are going to update our store also. So we are using this book adapter dot update one method, and it will take this object. Okay, so here it is our ID and changes equals to book. So these updates are the partial update. These updates are the partial updates of our store. So here this book object is going to pass here in this changes property. So, and next thing, we are creating here a new state with the help of state operator, setting loading equals to false. And now we are going to create the update book failure method, and which will be the same as other failure methods, where we are just passing the error, where we are just creating the new state with error object and error property and loading. We are setting loading equals to false here. Next thing, we are going to create here the delete book method, and it is taking two parameters here, and we are creating a new state by setting loading equals to true. Next thing will be delete book success, and which will take an ID, and here we are going to update our NgRx store also. So with the help of book adapter dot remove method, we are going to pass here an ID, and we are creating a new state with this state with this spread operator and loading equals to false here. Now let's create another method book failure, and it will be the same as other failure methods, which will take an error object, an error key and loading key, and here we are setting loading equals to false. Now let's export all of these states with the help of, okay, so we will do it later. First thing, let's see here what it is doing here. Get selected book ID. Here we are just getting the selected book ID. So here we are going to create this arrow function here, which will take a state as a parameter and which will return this selected book ID from the state. Okay, now let's understand what it is doing here. So this get selectors, book adapter dot get selector will gives us an object which will have these keys. It have some other keys, but we are not going to use here, so we are not defining here. So we are storing that object directly inside this object, so that we can use these things separately in our project. So now we have created our reducer, and now close this guy and open app module.ts file. So first thing we need here to do, we are going to import that reducer here. So we need to add this line here, book state colon book reducer. Okay, so it is our book state and here is our reducer which we have created recently. So you can go here and see it. We have created this book reducer. Okay, so we're going to call it here. So press Ctrl dot and enter, and it will add or it will import it here. So now let's close this thing. Next thing we need to do here, we are going to create an effect here. So just open this file after creating it, and here we need to import some files here. First thing we will import here the injectable module. Okay, next thing we will import here actions create effect of type from NgRx effects. Next thing we will import some RxJS operator catch error map of switch map. Next thing we will import our book service. Next thing we will import all the actions from book.actions and create its alias. Okay, now here we are going to create this, we are going to call this decorator injectable, and so that we can use it anywhere in our project. So let's create this class here which will be book effects. Okay, now create a constructor and inject some services here. So first thing we will inject here our actions. Next thing we will inject here our book services. Okay, now let's create a method here, add user, and sorry, it's not a method, it's an effect. So let's create effect add user, and it will be the type of book actions dot add book. So we are going to create this effect for add book method. So when we dispatch the add book action, it will be the side effect of that add book action. Here now we are going to use this switch map, which is a flattening operator, and inside this switch map we are going to call this book service add book method. And once we have called this method, we need its values. And we can, but we do not want to subscribe here. So how we can get the value of add book, means the value that is add book method is returning, how we can use that value without subscribing it. So we can use that value with the help of some RxJS operator like map. So inside map we will get that value as a data. It means this book service dot add book method is returning us some data. It is that data. So we are fetching the data which this add book service is returning to us, and here we are fetching that data. So why do we need that data? Because we need to invoke this add book success action here, and we need to pass that data here. Okay, now although we are not passing it from here, we are just passing it from our payload. Okay, so it doesn't matter, you can also pass it with the help of this data. Now we're going to calling here the catch error method so that we can track the catch, we can catch the errors, and when we will go to the catch error section, we will call this action add book failure and pass that error object here. So one thing you need to notice here, it is the side effect method of add book action. So when add book action method will be dispatched, this effect will be called, and when this effect will be called, it will fetch the data from the service, call this add book success method and load that data and save that data to the database with the help of HTTP service. And if it is failed, then it will call this add book failure method and return the error object to us. Now let's create other methods, other effects here. So next effect will be this update user. So it will be the same as the above, but we are just changing here a few things. Here we are changing the action name, which will be update book. Here we are calling the book service dot update book method and passing payload dot book, and inside pipe we are calling this map method, and we are not getting anything from the update book, so we are not calling anything here. Inside that we are calling this update book success action and passing its payload, and inside catch error we are doing the same thing as the previous method. Now let's create another effect here, which will be a delete book, and it will be the same, but we are changing here the action name, and we are changing the books, the service method here, which will be a delete book, and inside that we will call these two methods. On the success, we can say on the success we are calling this success method, and on the error we are calling this delete book failure method. Okay, so next effect will be our load book, and it will be the same as other, but just change the action here with load books, and on the success of this book service dot get books method. On the success we will call the success method success book method. And okay, my system is I'm sorry, suddenly my mouse was not working, so right now it's fine. So when we call this book service method, book service dot get books method, here we have two sections here. One is kind of success section where we will call this action, and one is a kind of this error section where we will call this load book failure method. So that's it for the book effects section. Now we need to import this thing inside the app module. So open this app module.ts file, and we are going to import it here. So press Ctrl dot and it will add this line here. Okay, now we have done so much things. Now we need to create some component. So inside this component folder and inside this book folder, create three components. So first component we will create here the selected book component, and this one thing here. So this book component is our parent component, and book list and selected book components are the independent child components. So we can say that book component.ts file is our smart component, and book list.component and selected book.component is a dumb component. So open this book list.component.ts file, and here let's import the Z20 emitter input and output also along with this component. Okay, now we are using here the inline template style. So we need to import one more thing here, which is a book from the book model. And here we're going to use this input, which is taking an input from our parent component, and it is a type of array. Next thing, we are going to create this event emitter. We are going to create this output, and it is the type of event emitter. And actually we are going to invoke some methods with the help of these output, so I will explain it later what happened here. Now let's define our template here. So we're going to define here table with these headers: id, title, price, and action. Now we are going to define our body, and we're going to loop over the books array, and here we are going to define these things. Now we need these three buttons here. So inside these three buttons, we are going to call the click event. We are going to use the click event, and this click event is emitting this output event emitter, which is a select book. Okay, and it is emitting this update book emitter, and it is emitting the value of this remove book. So it is a nice and clean child component. Now let's go there and create another component, which is selected book component, and it is also a child component. So after creating that component, open that component here and import this input section here and book section here, and we need an input property book, which we are getting from our parent component. Now let's move to the template section and let's create this card, which is the bootstrap card. And inside the card header, we are going to write here just selected book, and here we are going to create a list with ULLI, and we are going to display these properties title and price. Okay, so that's it, and we do not need this constructor here, so we can remove it also. Not also, we have to remove it. But before moving to the component part, I forgot one thing. We need to create the selectors. So inside this state folder and this book folder, create this file here and name it the selectors. So here we will define some selector. So we need to import few modules here. So first thing, we will import here create feature selector and create selector from NgRx store. Next we will import the everything from our book reducers. Okay, now we'll import the book state from book reducer, and here we'll create a feature selector which will be type of book state, and here is the name of our selector. Okay, so here we have this select book selector. We'll pass the book state and we will return from books.select all method. Okay, so you can see that here inside our reducer we have imported all of these things here. So we are using this select all here. Okay, now we need the state of loading, so just write here state and return state.loading. Now we need the same thing here, but we need the error object, and now we are gonna select entities. So just type here from books.select entities, and we have defined the select entities here. Now we need a current book ID. For that we need to pass the select book state, and here we have the select IDs. Sorry, not here. Here the selected book ID, so we are passing it here. Now we are going to select the current book with the help of entities and select book. We're going to call this method here, and we are going to return this logic here, and it will return us the current selected book. So that's the selector section. Now we can move to our book component. So here create this book component. Inside this component slash book folder, create this book.component.ts file and import on init here and import this file here. So after importing these files, simply we are importing observable, book is date, and we are importing all the selector from our selector file which we have created recently. Now we are importing all the actions. We are implementing on init method and call this method here, create a constructor and inject or store here. Now create some fields here which is the type of observable. First thing will be book, which will be type of array. Next thing will be boolean value, observable of boolean value, error will be observable of any, and here we will create this observable current book, and we are going to select the current book from the store with the help of this pipe method and this select method. And here we will call this action book selector dot select current book, not action, sorry, call this selector here. Okay, now let's assign the value to this book observable, this book's observable. So we will select all the books from our store with the help of this selector. Now we will select this loading state from our store, select this error state, and now we will dispatch or load book action so that we can load the book from the database with the help of HTTP services. Okay, now let's write this method here on book select, and it will invoke it will dispatch this select book action. Now we will create the add book, and you can pass this value from the form, but I'm not creating any form here, not submitting any form. I'm just creating some dummy data here. So first thing, I'm creating this random value here with the help of date method. Now I am generating a random number between 100 and 500 with the help of this logic, and here we are going to create the dummy book object. Here we will pass this ID, and value of this ID will be this random value. Now we are going to create the random title with the help of book string, and we are concatenating this random value to it, and here the price will be random price. Now we will dispatch our book action here, and we will pass this book object here. Now we will create the add book method, and it will be a simple, we will just dispatch this method here, this delete book method here. Now we will create the update book, and it will be a little bit different. Here we are getting the value of title and price from the prompt, but in the prompt message we will enter the value as a form of comma separated value. So the value should be like this: book 1, 100. Book 1 will be the title, 100 will be the price. Now here we will check if the input is coming here, it means input is not null, then split those values, and if the value's length is equals to 2, now create this dummy object here, and book ID will be the book ID that we are getting from the arguments, title will be value 0, price will be value 1, and we will pass it to the int. Now we will dispatch this action update book and pass this object. Okay, now it's the time for defining template. So here we will define the loading section. Here we have defined this loading observable, and we are using async pipe here so that we can display that message. Here it is just a spinner code which I have copied from the bootstrap 5 documents. So this code will just display spinner here. Now we will check if the error is coming or not. So here we will display the error message. Now we will define the current book section here. So we are just subscribing the current book observable here with the help of async pipe, and we are aliasing it. We are assigning, means we can say that now its value is inside the current book, Here we will call our this selected book component we have created earlier. So we will call this app selected book component, and we will pass this current book data to this book property. So now we have this data inside this input property. Now we will create a table here. So but before that, here we have created this button which is invoking add book method. So we have created this on add book method here. We are invoking it from there. Now this section will display the books list of books. So we are subscribing this books observable here, and we are using it as a book here. Now we will call this book list component here, and we will pass some input and output properties here. So first thing, we will pass here our input property, which will be book, and here we have some output properties: select book, update book, remove book, which we have defined here. Select book, update book, and remove book. So we are using it here, and we are assigning our methods to these output properties. Okay, so now let's open the terminal. So here type npm run API, which is a script for running our APIs, which I have defined here. So you can see it here, API. Okay, so just enter here and it will invoke the APIs. It will start a server, and let's add another command here, ngso, and it will run our application. But before that, we need to define our route. So open app routing module and define this line here. So here we have defined the path for books, and here component will be book component. Now we need to open the top nav component. So type here control P and type here top nav component, and here we will define our route. So you can see that. Okay, now it is clear. So we have defined our route here. Here our router link is books, and here the title is books. Now we are done, and we can move to the browser now. So now, as you can see here, we have this book section, and we are loading the list here. So let's add one more book. So we are doing fine. If I select this book, it will be displayed here. Now let's remove this book, and let's try to update its name. So let's try to book 3, its price will be 400. So you can see that the properties of our this book has been updated. You can select it like this and remove it like this. Now let's see how this section works, how these books are getting loaded here. So if we go here in the book component section here, so here we are using the selector for selecting the book from the store, and but our book store is initially empty. It does not have any value. You can go here in the book reducer section, and you can see that our initial state, it does not contain any value. So to push some values to the store, we are calling this dispatch method. We are dispatching this load books method so that we can get some values from the database with the help of HTTP services and push those values to the store. So we can go here. So when this load book action is called, it has effect, side effect method. So here we have defined our effects. When this loadbook method has called, its side effect method will also be called. So here we have created the effects for our loadbook action. When this loadbook action has called, it will also call these method on the basis of success and failure. So when a loadbook method is success, it means we have successfully fetched data from our book service. It will call the load success method, and it will load these books which we are getting from the service. It will load these books to our store. So that's how our store is getting value. Now our store has got some value, so we can fetch those values with the help of this selector. So this selector is assigned to this books observable, and this books observable is used for displaying the values or storing the book array, so that we can load our array and displays those value. So here the same thing, we have this loading observable which is getting value from the select book loading state, and we have defined our state here which have some additional values like select book id, loading, and error. So here we are getting the chunk of that state with the help of this selector. Now this selector is getting us error object. So it is how we are displaying or loading our books. Now when we click on this add book method, what is happening here? Let's go here, and when we are clicking on that button, this method is getting invoked. So this method is basically dispatching this add book action, and we know that this add book action also have an effect. So we have defined that effect here. So this add book have an effect. When this effect has called, it has two two conditions. One is success and one is failure. So when we call this book service method here and book service dot add book method here, then we are piping down it to the map and catcher. So when we reach to the map section, it will call, it means we have successfully added the data. If we are in this section, it means we have successfully added data to the database. Now we can call this add book success method here, and if we reach to this section, it means something has happened to the HTTP end. It means something is not right. So we can call this add book failure method here and pass the error object here. So here on the click of this add book button, on this add book button, we have invoked this method. Then we have dispatched this action. This action have an effect, and here we have defined an effect of this method, this action. Now this action is calling this add book service here. On the success of this service, we are calling success action, and we are loading our data to the state here. So we are loading the data, adding the new data to the state here. Okay, and on this catch error section, we are just calling this failure function. So we can say that we can sum up it like this, that when add book method is a success, then we will add a new data to our store. Okay, same thing will happen with the update method and remove method. So when we call the remove method, its action delete book have an effect. So it will call this effect, and on the successful result of this delete book, it will call this delete book success method and remove that data from our store. And on the catch error section, it will call this delete book failure action and pass these objects simply. So that's how it is working. That's how our NgRx store effects and with the help of entity or NgRx store effects and entity works. So it is working very nice and fine. Let's check one more time. Let's try to update it. So let's name it book 4,500. Okay, so let's select this one, this one, this one, this one. So yeah, everything is working very fine. So if you find this video helpful, then please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed this channel, you can also subscribe it. That's it for now. I will see you next time.